literally, gosh, I've literally been through hell and high water to get here. I slept in Houston last night. I was supposed to be here. But I'm so happy we have my very first PAX. I have some friends with me. They will introduce themselves.
Oh, I'm MC from the lot. Hello. I don't even know how I can follow that. Y'all can pretend to give me a bit or something. You know? My name is Kyle Murdoch. My producer's name is Kay Murdoch. Not to, you know, unoriginal.
Just say I'm Iron Man. I've given a variation of this panel presentation several times, but I haven't done it sitting down, so this is kind of odd. Whole new world. Honestly, this is different. I'm a teacher by day, for those of you who don't know. And, you know, being a teacher of middle school kids, you gotta walk around. There's a thing called proximity. Give it up for teachers. Kids are always into stuff, you know. We always have to walk around, but I'm sure you guys will behave yourselves, right? No. No? Don't make me come out there. Speaking of come out there, I did come out there, and what I did before you guys got here with the help of my great assistants is we put flyers underneath some chairs. And so, if you see a flyer or something around you somewhere, I feel like I'm on paper. Hopefully it'll have a letter on it. And so, if you have one that has my favorite letter, letter R, please hold it up. Handwriting? We'll call it R. Come on up here. We have a CD for you. You're a winner. The new car is the last one, so you gotta stick around. All right, we'll be, you know, making sure you guys are awake by giving you those type of goodies throughout the show. All right, so let's get started. Again, this is a little uncomfortable for me, but I'm gonna look up here. As you know, our names are there, and we are going to make the connection. I want to tell you a little bit about what you may not know, or probably do know already about myself. As being a teacher, I grew up in Philadelphia, and grew up very, Philly. Sixers did beat the Celtics last night. Yeah! It's all right. But anyway, so growing up in Philly, huge hip-hop hotbed, I would say. And so I grew up before I even knew what Nerdcore was or thought about combining video games with hip-hop, I was what they call a hip-hop head. So we're going to take you on a trip through hip-hop, through video games, and through Nerdcore. First of all, hip-hop and video games have a lot more in common than I ever would have thought. So I call these parallel culture. Hip-hop started in the 1970s. You guys can hip-hop is now a multi-billion-dollar industry. Wait a minute, let's see what video games have in common. Well, it started around the 70s, maybe sooner. But we dismissed this fast. Well, quickly gained commercial popularity and multi-billion-dollar industry. Now, very similar, but very different at the same time. It took me going through about 6 years of doing what I do to actually think about trying to combine these two. I just felt like there was something that culturally and systematically were separate and were supposed to be that way. And I just never thought about putting them together until some things happened. Now, going through some history. Now, there's a man that we call the father of hip hop. You might know this guy? Cool Herc. Cool Herc, that's right. Cool Herc is the father of hip hop. I'll give you a quick story. He was born in Jamaica. Began as a DJ, would DJ local parties around at his mother's house. Didn't have a turntable, so he kind of took hers and would scratch the records, and that became, you know, what was the fad of scratching. So Cool Herc, widely known as the father of hip hop. Now, if there had to be a father of video games, anybody know who that would be? All right. Now, after much deliberation and talking with a bunch of different insiders, we kind of seem to agree that this man, you know who that is? That beautiful man? Nolan Bushnell is probably because he always wanted to work for Walt Disney. Always wanted to be a Disney guy. And always got his applications denied. So he said, I'm going to make my own. But you know what? I'm going to make a better one. I'm going to combine video games, pizza, and big rats. And there it was, Chuck E. Cheese. Until it went bankrupt, but it came back around. All right, moving on. Let's go to movies. All right, very first video game or hip-hop influenced movie is one called Wild Style. If you haven't seen this, I highly, highly recommend it. I think it's on Netflix. Please do. Highly recommend it. All right, those are some lyrics about it. It's all about the elements of hip hop, which are MC and turntable, graffiti, breakdancing, street knowledge, and culture. Then, unfortunately, the first video game movie didn't quite turn out that well. Now, I don't know if you guys heard of a spectacular movie called Video Game. Anybody here from the 80s remember Sequest? Very tragic story about this movie is that all three of those people committed suicide. Because of the movie? Because of the movie. And the director committed suicide. I wish I could make that up. So maybe you shouldn't watch it. Don't watch that movie.
I accidentally filmed the movie in a cavern controlled by Cthulhu.
But it was overlooked in 1984 by a couple of movies you might have heard of, like Star Trek 3, Ghostbusters, Gremlins, and The Karate Kid. They all came out the same month. So it was a bad time to release a movie. And yes, they all came the same. Not at the same time. I had to put this. This was not a mass movie suicide. Moving on. Here we go. Finally, video games and hip hop come together in a spectacular title called Breakdance by Epic Games. Yeah, let me show you these top-notch cutting-edge graphics here. Yeah. Talk about ahead of this time. Now, you know, the breakdance phenomenon was a pretty big thing. Epic said, all right, we're gonna do what we can here and make it
in front of the school? What is that?
I think it's so it was a copy of the Moves game, as you'll see the guy when they're doing the worms. Like wrestling guys. This guy too high.
Yeah.
It's a smirk. So it was a copy of the Moves game, and unfortunately did very poorly. Now, so there were some much more notable meetings. One of them was one of my favorites, where the MC was introduced in a game called. First introduction of the MC into the video game world. A lot of rapper fans I see here. I appreciate that. Similar to the Guitar Hero format, you would match buttons with the lyrics for timing. I like the fact that it actually, promoted being on beat as well as, doing, hip hop. The beat and the rhythm thing, a lot of people don't have that. So, all right. More cutting edge graphics.
Wasn't it censored like the Ice?
Yes. All right, more spectacular hip hop video games. Wu-Tang, Shaolin.
Yeah. Never heard of it.
Great idea. Cool execution, but I don't know. They might not be those on that.
Well, no, I think it's funny, and you mentioned that. I remember reading GamePro and seeing the engine was built for a whole other game, and then you didn't hear anything about that game. And then it's like out of the blue, like, for all you Wu-Tang fans, we got a video game. I'm like, hold on, that looks eerily close to the game that you did. So save yourself some time from playing this. Go online and Google or YouTube the fatalities. That's probably the best thing about it.
Yeah.
Especially the dubbed over voices that are supposed to sound like the Wu-Tang members, which are clearly not. Yeah, I want to kill you, sucker. So yeah, YouTube that and spare yourself.
It was a cool triple feud out hip hop, video games, martial arts equals money. So it sold well, it just sucked. This one didn't suck. Jack. Cell shaded graphics, highly duplicated to this day. The original to do that. First, to explore the art of graffiti. Let's see what else we got here. Still maintains a huge cult following. I don't know if anybody has a soundtrack, but the soundtrack is like, man.
Yes.
Mostly electro techno, J-pop, but definitely 80s rap inspired. Caught my eye originally, but this is a great game to play. Another one, a little less known. Oh, no, this one's more known. The Def Jam series, I really love these games. Def Jam Vendetta, the game came from another game's engine, which was the WWF engine. But a lot of fun. Get to beat up your favorite wrestlers and hip-hop stars. Like, who doesn't want to punch Method Man in the face? Get away with it, you know? So yeah, they started to evolve the series, and to me, the series started to go a little downhill. They went to what was the last one? The Def Jam Icon, which was, they tried to make realistic looking characters, and there was no more throwing somebody through the roof and power driving them through the ring, you know. It was trying to be realistic street fighting, and it just didn't work out.
Wait, did they put Snoop in one of those?
They did.
Was he like Jigglypuff in Batman? He sleep and then he wins the move.
Right. This special was like a little smoke.
Right.
But Redman, during the making of this game, said that he wanted his finishing move to be called 100 bitches. And when it was time to finish you off, 100 girls would come and smack you. And it just felt like they couldn't get the motion capture done. So it never happened. So you had to kick to the next. Alright, yeah. Real story. Mark Echo's getting up, a little lesser known, but equally as influential. This one explored the art of graffiti. Hey, Murdoch was telling me something interesting about this one, actually. You know,
During my radio days on XM radio, we used to do it, well, still kind of do a radio host, just not on XM. But during that time, I actually had the pleasure of talking to the 3 people who were involved in the hip hop tip with this game. One obviously being Mark Echo, who, you know, how crazy this dude. I mean, he's a cool cat, but I'm like, the ego to have your name on the game. You know? Come on, I don't know, you know, whatever. And then I got to speak to Talib Kweli, who was actually the voice of Train, who is the guy you see featured, the protagonist. And then RJ D2, amazing producer who did the score of the game, which really was cool because up to that point, there really haven't been a lot of like hip hop people doing scores for games. It's usually the music is licensed, like a Just Blaze or some kind of producer licensed music for a Madden or NBA game. So that was actually kind of groundbreaking. But Mark Echo, speaking of him, kind of was the person who doomed his own game. At the same time that this game came out, the big controversy was going on with Barry Bonds. For those in baseball, you know, he broke the record, and the actual baseball, Mark Echo bought the ball and didn't want to relinquish it to the Hall of Fame. So as a result, he kind of just brought a lot of like bad press to his name, and it happened to be right when this was coming out. So he probably did himself a huge PR fail with that. So it was interesting just talking to him about it because he had real big aspirations for the game, but a lot of
that's
people
why we haven't heard much about it.
Yeah.
You're saying it's bad to put your name on your video game?
Well, not that, but
Are you saying that MC Frontalot presents MC Frontalot's MC Frontalot?
What's different? You have to play a game. Mark Echo ranked the video game. It's like, I buy your clothes. I don't know if I want to buy your video. I think with you, it's a little bit more of an understandable segue. Mark Echo, I'm just a
I buy it.
It was actually money that game.
Yeah.
Just didn't.
Didn't do commercially. MTV talked about taking the movie forward and all stuff, but just hasn't happened. All right, so now some notable meetings. We get to go to the sound segment. What's a panel on hip hop without sound? So when we made the connection, I remember a couple of key meetings that happened in hip hop. One of them was a song by the Cocoa Brothers called Super Brooklyn. Now, lesser known song, but some hits here. Smith & Wesson, Cocoa Brothers. All right, let that play. We can play a little bit of that. So in case you haven't heard it, you guys what they did was, obviously sampled the Super Mario thing, and so they couldn't sell it. They just put that on the internet. I think it was on a couple white labels or something. And that was the first time that I heard someone actually sample a video game and kind of chop it up and create a beat out of it. The guy who did that was named Domingo. I'll get back to him a little later. So yeah, then there was a guy named Lil Flip who did a song called Game Over. You guys remember that song, Game Over? They used the Pac-Man theme music, like that one. I love the beat. I mean, very exciting. Beat's great. Ringtone sold 300,000, and then he got what no one ever wants to get when you steal someone else's work, is a knock on the door. So Namco said, hey, is that Pac-Man out here? Hey up!
They ate him up.
And they ate him up. And so, but yeah, I don't know where he is now. Yeah, I don't know. Seriously. Have you seen Lil Flip? Yeah, that's where everyone was. So, I want to talk about some Nerdcore hip hop. Anybody Nerdcore hip hop fans there? So, there's this guy to the left of me, whose name is MC Frontlot, who's going to tell you a little bit about Nerdcore hip hop. But in a moment, because I added some stuff about Whitey Cracker as well, one of my favorites, and I'm going to jump into that. But first, MC Frontlot, tell me a little something about Nerdcore hip hop.
What do you want to know?
All right, for the lay person, what is it?
Oh, well, it's like all the rest of hip hop, except that you know how rappers are cool. It's that there's not a lot of pressure in that direction.
So it's rap minus the cool.
I mean, it's like, yeah. Everybody has their own notion of what's cool, but I remember sitting there rapping on my computer, and the internet allowed me to pass that around without having to admit it was me. I loved rapping, and I loved rap music, and I'd always loved making rap songs on my 4-track, and then finally on my computer. But it's embarrassing to be me and be rapping for notes at that point. And so that was like a huge barrier to showing it to people. You don't want to walk up to somebody who understands and loves hip hop and be like, please take my rapping seriously. Particularly if you've just started and you're talking about Star Wars conventions. So the internet was good for that. The first version of my website, the whole 3 years, I think, my website was up with songs on it, and the photo gallery was all pictures of famous rappers with their faces blurred out. The bio would randomize whenever you hit reload on the page. And I was like, I'm MC Frontlot, you will never know who I am. And that's what, and so that idea of Nerdcore just kind of was to go along with that. I think it's you don't have to be so cool that you expect people to look up to you. You could shield yourself from people looking down on you by sticking the whole internet in between the two of you. And then that's ended up kind of working out.
is this man, Whitey Cracker. Now, this, first of all, when I saw the box, I was like, what the heck is that? So it instantly got me a little interested. There was some little known website, I don't know, it was 2005, and a very little known website reviewed my album, and so I was reading it. But underneath it, they had a link to this, and that was how I got introduced to what was Nerdcore hip hop. And I'm like, I like Nintendo, I like rap, let's see what this is. So I took a listen, and it was actually pretty dope. I wish Bryce could be here, but Whitey Cracker, you can go and get this album at whiteycracker.
He seeds the BitTorrent for it, so you can grab
Oh,
it.
yeah. and for those of you who might be curious about the name, the Cracker part of his name is because he's a bona fide, legitimate hacker. And,
but the YT part is because he's a honky.
Anyway, so I heard the album, and I had to mention it here because to me it was just such an influential moment through music. It's available for free at whiteycracker.com. You should definitely check that out. Now we'll be back into hip-hop, video games, nerdcore. DJ Hero, have I played this game?
Yeah!
So I'm not going to talk about it. I mean, it's fun, but I don't know. We'll talk about that after. All right, let's talk about the future. Now, where are we? We're talking about this next thing, the Newmark DJ thingy, or rather, it's supposed to be the real DJ version of DJ Hero. It's by Newmark, who's actually the creators of one of the first turntables and most respected. Hasn't come out yet, so nobody has any idea what this is going to be like, but it has been out.
It's going to be awesome. I'm going to pre-order it.
Absolutely.
And when it comes out, I'll complain about it bitterly on the internet.
Of course. Now, let's talk about hip-hop's decline. And then we're going to talk about, we'll talk about some other stuff too. All right, so there has been a rapid decline of hip-hop record sales. And since 2000, it's kind of I guess a sad thing, but for whatever reason, 44% sales drop since 2000. And it's now not as big of a big part of the music sales as it has been. Why? I have a couple of reasons that I've gotten from like crack experts, aka like forum people. You know, so we went through illegal downloading. It's probably a huge part of it, obviously. Advanced technology, the increased artistry output, and now there's an oversaturation of hip hop music because it's easy to do. Not, what MC Frontalot was doing, not to knock that, is a very simple thing to do. And now, I record on a very inexpensive piece of equipment in my bedroom. So it's not hard to record a hip hop song and put it out into the market. And if you do it for free, then that's even better. Great. I got this one from Prefix Magazine. It says, white kids are no longer fools. I don't really know any white kids, but
someone had been tricking them into buying hip hop.
I think so. Maybe it was the fear factor of like NWA and things like that. And buy this! So now it's not, hip hop's not as scary anymore. It's not as rebellious.
When you have rappers named after Fonzie Bear, quote, Waka Flocka Flame.
We're not name dropping. Come on. This will be on this one tomorrow. Okay, Murdoch, this is Waka Flocka. So my take on that quote was just that hip hop is not as scary anymore. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it opens the lane for, let's say, for Nerdcore or for the Lupe Fiascos or the smarter MCs who may be doing it. The top guy right now, Drake, far from a scary guy, he's just a skinny, half Jewish kid. Was Jimmy, got shot. He got shot, so he got street cred.
Yeah.
This is actually where MC Frontalot was supposed to come in with his quotation about music. And so MC Frontal, I would like to talk to you before I get into the resurgence of video game sales. I just want to talk to you about the current state of nerdcore hip hop.
Yes.
Where is it? You've created it, so you need to speak on it.
Well, I guess so. In 2000, it was like I was doing those, and Bryce had a couple songs, or Whitey Cracker had a couple songs out, and MC Chris started putting songs out that year, and none of us were doing it like in public at that point. And like 5 years later, like Chris and I started touring, and now 5 years later, and then 6 years later than that, there's Random and K Murdoch. There's Jesse D tours. Chris's tours are huge. Whitey tours. Shape the Dark Lord tours. MC Lars tours. So there's a bunch of viable acts who are actual, have sort of transitioned from the fantasy virtual world of being an internet rapper into being a real live music act that in many cases can be a self-supporting artistic endeavor. So that's super exciting. And along with that happening, there went from 0 to, I don't know, I'd say probably a couple hundred kids out there who self-identify as nerdcore rappers and who are just, doing their own art project and working with each other over the internet and making music and exploring what's possible. And that's, that's exciting to me that kids like that work and wanted to exchange art based on it.
That is a cool thing. So I think that, we did a panel before at South by Southwest, and you said something like that because of you, originating the word nerdcore, whatever you do is pretty much nerdcore.
Yeah, somebody asked if I was like worried about getting stuck as a nerdcore rapper. It's like, no, nerdcore has to worry about getting stuck as me.
That's so true, so true. I wanted to, I don't know where we are on time, so I want to fast forward and go into K Murdoch's piece on sound in video games. But video game sales have gone up. While hip hop sales go down, video games go up. It's all in the chart right there. That was foul photo of all right, I want to talk about myself real quick. Can I do that? Yeah. All right. So my connection to nerdcore hip hop is that I made this album here called Mega Man. Looks like Mega Man, but has a black guy jumping with a microphone. So 2007, I got an idea. Mega.com, by the way. And so I got an idea to just sample my favorite game, which was Mega Man, and just create a hip hop album out of it. And at this time, I was doing what I considered to be doing my thing in the underground hip hop world, but I was ready to try something new. Just maybe a one-shot deal, to try something new and see what would happen. Potential career suicide when I think about it now, looking back. But it kind of worked out because there were a lot of people who thought Mega Man 2 had some badass music. So, because of that, here we are. So this led to a sequel, as all great developers do. We do a sequel, which was Mega Man 9, based on the Mega Man 9 game. So I'm doing all these game album type things, and then I get a call from Capcom. And so here we go, the end of the road, Capcom. So they give me a ring, or no, they actually sent me a MySpace message when that was still hot. So this was a long time. So they were like, hey, we hear you doing a Mega Man album. And I'm like, oh, crap. Here we go, into the line. And they were like, well, actually, we've been playing it all day at the office, and we love it. And I'm like, get out of here. Say, Comic-Con's next month. You want to come out and hang out at our booth? And I'm like, huh? Because it doesn't happen like that. You hear about these big conglomerates just squashing the little guy. Like, no way. But it was serious. So we started talking. We looked up some really cool things. And now Mega Man and Mega Man 9 are exclusively licensed by Capcom. That's the greatest thing. So yeah, it's been working out great. My relationship's great with them. I don't want to sound like a company man, but I Capcom stuff. So they did a hip hop mixtape and had me on there, and I performed at Comic-Con and all that cool stuff. And now, Mr. K. Murdoch. You guys know what that is then? All right, so K. Murdoch, as the producer of the panel, you'll get to talk a little bit about production, music.
Well, I'll keep this brief too because I'm actually interested. I'm sure people, hopefully, in the audience might have some questions or just comments and stuff. So, I actually meant to tell you to take that slide out. Well, because we were talking about the idea of the fact that it's funny because with the advancements in systems, like when CD technology started being introduced into systems and it was no longer 8-bit and whatnot, you know, you had the composers particularly had more, I guess you want to say, space to really do stuff with sonics. You know, it wasn't just, you know, the bit stuff that actually is funny because that stuff to me is still the stuff that is more, you know, producers like to use more source material because the new stuff that's all orchestral and stuff, it's a lot harder to sample to the point you don't really want to, you know, go back and mess with it. I feel like it's just too well produced, not as much fun and whatnot. So that's why I had the system of the Mega Drive, the Sega CD, and the PlayStation. Because those are really, when that happened, that was kind of the crossover from, you know, 60-bit to, you know, CD quality as far as like the sound and whatnot. So good, the next slide. So yeah, music, we didn't talk about this game, music generator. It's funny.
Talk about this first.
I know a lot of people, producers, particularly hip-hop producers, even though I know the game was kind of more geared, the way they promoted it was more geared toward like dance kind of music.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people I know to this day who use, I think the last iteration of it came out on PlayStation 2 that still make beats, like dope beats off.
I started making beats on this. And I made beats, I recorded all my soul tracks that I made on this. Like I was afraid to tell people what I did on that. What
They come to your studio, why is there just a PlayStation? Fooled you.
Yeah, I started on the 1999. I started on the
Wow.
Okay.
So this guy right here, even as a kid, obviously, you know, when it came to video game music, I didn't really pay attention to too many. I mean, we know like people like Tommy Tallarico and, you know, Kondo from all the classic Nintendo stuff and whatnot. But I would say if I had to remember one person that through the years I've always paid attention to his music because I felt like he's done stuff that I would like to listen to outside of the game, it would be this gentleman right here, Yuzo Koshiro, who was
Like what? Super Adventure Island.
Oh, this is my game, man. Okay, back in the day when Blockbuster kind of came around, not to date myself, but hell. When Blockbuster started, my Blockbuster didn't have but like maybe 4 to 6 games to rent. You know what I mean? So I always found myself going back to Super Adventure Island for Super Nintendo.
Great game.
The game is, you can beat it in one sitting. It is probably the most dumbed down game. But when you make a game with that dope of a soundtrack, you don't necessarily need, I mean, the rest is whatever. You know what I mean? Because there will be times I have friends come over and we just pause the game and leave the music just looping while we do other stuff like just, you know, kick it or whatnot. But, you know, for those who aren't familiar with the game and, you know, particularly why I picked out this game and the next game, which you'll see, is because pertaining to this hip-hop and video games correlation, I was really like, yo, this guy's in tune with like what's going on like with the urban sounds because the soundtrack to that game, to be honest with you, and I'm about to play some clips, he kind of had like, was making some beats that I felt like I could hear like rappers on, you know what I mean? It wasn't like a Japanese guy trying to make some cool Western style stuff. This stuff was dope. At least it's so, I'm gonna bring you a little montage I put together using emulator exclusive sounds and put them together. So check this out. Get a little taste of Yuzo Koshiro, what he was doing, implementing the urban hip hop kind of sounds back.
This is like the 90s, right?
Yeah, this is the 90s. So here's a little Super Adventure Island montage real quick. play Super Adventure Island, and it's all thanks to the amazing score of Yuzo Koshiro. So you go to the next one.
All right.
Streets of Rage 2. I'm glad they advanced in the video games to the point where the box art can really reflect the game. It still look anything like the game. Blaze's outfit and the white skin with a white. She had like red and black or something. The color with the black dude. You know what I mean? Adam didn't make the cut. He actually winds up getting killed or kidnapped at the end of the game, right?
That's a spoiler.
No. If you haven't played Streets of Rage, that's actually one emulator you need to go back and play. Anyway, Yuzo did this one too, and while this one wasn't so like, I don't want to say Streets of Super Adventure Island was more urban, but it had more of a hip hop kind of like that New Jack Swing kind of feel. This one had a little bit of everything, but in particular, everyone knows this. I mean, listening to the way he scored his music, it was just right for the sample. You know what I mean? As a hip hop producer, I mean, obviously the beat that kicks in is so fun. It's one of the greatest, intros in just games. It makes you just wish you were on the street, just like, I'm sorry, but this is my weed. This is so, ironically, and I'll wrap this up. My introduction as far as kind of getting into the video game hip hop came on a project I did with Brandon in 2008. We did remixes to Jay-Z's American Gangster. We did American Gamer, which I, to this day, I thank Brandon for doing because it really opened me up to this whole new world. And I wound up I was kind of always looking for a reason to sample Streets of Rage. So it's like, yo, I gotta sample Streets of Rage for this project. So we flipped a little track for one of the songs, Say Hello. And I'll play a little snippet.
Jay-Z over Streets of Rage.
Yeah. It just sounded meant to be. Like without it, there would be no subsequent. Well, I don't want to say that, but it really opened the gateway as far as me and you working together and doing Forever Family Club. So I mean, really, that honestly, I don't want to say it's kind of sad to think in the scope of all the great producers out there, but I would have to say when it came to one that I could talk about in this kind of form, it would have to be Yuzo Koshiro. You know what I mean? There's a lot of guys making great scores, but there really hasn't been anyone doing it. It really incorporating like a hip hop kind of urban sound, so leaving the door open for hopefully me one day.
Right on. MC Carmelot, do you play any video games?
I prefer chess. I play some video games, man.
Alright, nice.
Oh man, I just bought Assassin's Creed 2 and I'm not letting myself play it until I get at least 4 songs in the can for the I said this is music, I was trying to get all the songs written for the new record over Christmas break, and then I cracked open my birthday present of Red Dead Redemption. And then the second I got done with that, I thought of my lyric about my PlayStation 2, having to break up with my PlayStation 2 because it doesn't work anymore. And I was actually throwing it away from my living room, which I hadn't been able to do yet because of my heart. And then I'm like, oh yeah, and the end lyric is like, if your emulator's old enough, I'm ravishing that. So I'm like, wait a minute, I haven't tried to install a PS2 emulator in a long time. And I went and installed it. These things work now. So then I beat like the first 8 Colossi, and then I started playing Lego. And then I had to go through and beat We Heart Katamari again. And then I was like, oh man, I never finished Wind Waker, so I spent 3 days. That emulator works now too. That's the video games I've been playing instead of working on making new music for you nice people.
Games, stealing productivity since the 70s. Alright, I kind of want to wrap up with a little thing that myself and Kate Murdoch were talking about. Hip hop and video games, for the most part, and it's kind of unfortunate that they usually only meet up in titles like this. And there's nothing wrong with that photo, but they usually wind up meeting in these type of titles, or maybe this type of title, or that type of title. But there was this one.
Yeah, what's funny is anyone who's, I always get asked, especially from riding like the subway, sitting down my head, and people look at my wrist and say, man, like, you know, those some tight ass rubber bands on your wrist, they're blue. And I'm like, oh, I gotta explain this. I was so into Samurai Champloo, still am, that I went and got, Mugen's Bristol tattoos. So I have the blue bands, which actually, when I went and did the history of them, they don't necessarily have such a great stigma attached to them. They tattooed people's wrists and ankles to let them know they were criminals. So, but to me, no, actually, I did read it before, but also, blue is my favorite color, and having Native American blood, having tribal tattoos is kind of like my little tribal tattoos. That's at least the way I play it off. But yeah, I'm a big Champloo fan of just what it represents as far as to me it was like I was in heaven. Like I'm a big anime fan, big hip hop fan. So to have them Champloo, the term itself means cultural mixing in Japan. So it's great. It's like the best of the East. Samurai's doing, one of the episodes of one of the guys was a breakdancer. Which I think that's and the guy would come up and while he's talking, he'd have a dude beatboxing with him. I was like, yo, this is just so ill. So, if you guys get a chance, go back and check it. And actually, the guy who produced the music, he passed away last year, Richard Bass. He's an amazing producer from Japan.
I was probably at 10 minutes, so I want to say this. Today, video game music is winning. Now, gosh, number one selling genre of music on DIY sites like Bandcamp, generated over $3 million a year, and I have to shout out Chris Tin for winning a Grammy for Civilization 4. So I have to ask, right about now, you have 10 minutes, so question, step up to the mic.